Hello, fitness friends. I'm back. I know it's been a while, but let me just say that I am now a marathoner, and that's so exciting to say. I know it's taken me a while to make another podcast. It's pretty ironic since, my New Year's resolution was to put out a podcast every week, and that was January 1st, and it's like the end of February, and now is the second one of 2023, but I'll get better. I finally had time to actually sit down. I lit a candle, had some music going, and I planned out the next couple episodes with just some things that I think I want to talk about. I have people staying with me for the next couple weeks, so it might be a bit sporadic. I'm trying to get ahead on it, but working on getting my life together, blocking out some time for each week to work on the podcast. And I really do love podcasting, but it is pretty time consuming. But I have the ultra marathon in, oh my god, 2 weeks. But I'll get some more time for podcasting while I chill a bit after that run. I am excited to see where things go, and if you guys want to help me out, just liking and sharing the podcast, that's greatly appreciated. Anyway, I finally have the episode for my marathon experience. So just to start out sort of with training, so my longest run was 18 miles on a Planet Fitness treadmill, which wasn't ideal. I would have rather run outside, but I wanted to make sure my gels weren't going to hurt my stomach. My favorite for race day are the Honey Stinger fruit smoothie gels, but they are so hard to find here. I don't know why, but I had to practice with the goo, which I don't really like them, but it seems like all the running stores have goo, but they don't have the Honey Stinger ones. But I'm working to figure out where to get them. Probably have to get them on Amazon, but just in my opinion, they're the easiest to digest. So I felt a little underprepared with 18 miles just because I was planning on having my longest run be 22. But I knew deep down in me I had the drive to finish, and I still cared about doing my best, but I knew that I had it in me to finish. So a couple of days before the marathon, I picked up my brother from the airport. He lives in Florida, so he flew in just that weekend to run the marathon too. We didn't run together, but it was the same race. So Friday we did sort of a sunset 1 to 2 mile hike nearby. And Saturday was the race expo. The expo, it was in downtown Phoenix. It was mid-January, so it was cool to see all the Super Bowl ads starting to pop up and be all over the sides of buildings and the metro and all. The expo, it was pretty cool. We got our bibs and shirts. Then they had a couple of the free things like vitamins or electrolytes. They had some merch and some big signs to take pictures with, and I'll put some on the Instagram if you want to see the handle for it. It's at lifeofarunnerpodcast, or my personal Instagram is at meganfischer. So after the expo, we grabbed some coffee. We went down to A Mountain, it's in Tempe, right by ASU. So we were fairly active before the race, where the nerves were kind of settled down, but enough to stay loose. I didn't run those days just because I didn't want to feel overwhelmed. If I had a bad run, that would really affect me mentally. So I just wanted to stay active and just kind of see how I was feeling. And so Saturday we went back to my apartment. We had some pasta, just chilled out. I got all my stuff together, so I laid everything out the night before. I put my clothes on the floor, picked out what I was wearing. I had the Lululemon Blissfeel running shoes, Lululemon leggings, and a dry wick paint splatter looking shirt. I had Belega socks, and like I had a neon pink junk headband. I don't know why, but it's like my superstition for every race is like I have to have like hot pink ones somewhere, but it just happens that it's usually always that headband. I mean, there's pink in my shirt too, but like I just like races because you can wear like the most obnoxious colors and like nobody judges you. Like usually I have like bright yellow sunglasses and neon pink headband that like anywhere else I would never wear that, but it's just for race days. I love that. So I packed my bag. I had a granola bar, banana, gels. I think I had 3 gels. I kept 2. No, I kept 3 in my pocket when I was running, so I had 3. I had my bib already on my clothes. I had to change the clothes too. I didn't want to, like, it was a half-hour drive that I didn't want to be all sweaty on the drive back. I had my wallet, I had my earbuds, extra water, I had my car keys. I think that's it. So I felt as ready as I could be. I didn't really have trouble sleeping. I don't know why. Usually, like, before a race, I'm, like, all jittery, but, like, I was good to go. I mean, there's this dog that's at my apartment. It, like, barks literally hours at night, but I think it only woke me up, like, once or twice, but that was fine. I think I got up at somewhere around 5. The race was 7:30, so I just wanted to have enough time to be there a bit early. So I made my coffee, I got dressed, did my hair. I threw sweats over because it was so chilly. And then I grabbed my stuff to go, and that's when, like, I sort of, like, panicked a little bit. It was so cold outside, and it was pouring rain. Like, it was a lot of rain. And I think my phone said it was going to stop by, like, 7 or 8-ish, so I didn't want to think about it too much. I was just hoping we could drive down to the race and it would stop. It was a half hour, so it was the highway. And let me tell you, this exit for the race, it was backed way up. Like, the streets were closed for the race, and, like, Phoenix is a huge city. I think it's, like, the 6th biggest city in the U.S. So that's one thing. If you're planning on running, like, a big race like this in a big city, make sure you leave early because traffic will be messed up. Plus, like, people came from all over. Like, it wasn't just people from Arizona. Like, they came in from everywhere. So they didn't really know where they were going, so I think that added to it. They were staying in hotels and had to drive, but we managed to find a decent parking spot and had like 40 or so minutes to race time. So took my sweats off, started to like barely sprinkle, but it was still like pretty cold, and standing outside in just like really thin leggings and like a short sleeve shirt, I was like shivering, but it was okay because I knew I was going to warm up running, and I didn't want to carry like my sweats all around. So we went to the porta potties, got in line for our corrals. My brother is like, he's a lot faster than me, so at that point I was alone. Not like alone, there were people around, but I didn't know anyone, so it was just kind of staying by myself. I was in the corral 16 since I didn't really have like a time to submit during registration. That's when it started to pour even harder than earlier in the morning. So my hair was like dripping wet and my clothes were soggy, and the worst was that like my socks and my shoes were wet, so I knew like I was going to get some blisters during this run, and just had to like mentally prepare for that, because usually like the Belega socks I have, they're kind of like blister proof, so they don't really bother me, but they were soaked. Some people had ponchos, like the little plastic ones, and I 100% recommend, even if there's like the slightest possibility of rain, take that with you. Like, most people, they took them off and left them at the start. Like, usually like the clothes they leave, they'll donate to some place, but those ponchos they'll just throw away. So you can just leave that at the start if you just want to stay dry as long as possible. But even like a couple of people ran with them because it was just pouring so hard. And if you can stay dry in any way, just take that opportunity, trust me. Someone offered me like a like, they just had a trash bag they poked holes in, and I told them I was fine, and I thought there was 5 minutes till the start, but, okay, here's what I didn't think through is corrals start, like, 2 or 3 minutes apart, so really, like, being in corral 16, I had, like, at least another half hour until the race actually started, so I really regret not taking that bag. I, like, looked for that guy, too, to see if he still had it, and I just could not find him anymore. I also tried to fix my sock because it was, like, so wet. I just didn't want it to bug me, so I took my shoe off, and that was the exact moment everyone started, like, walking forward, like, the race started, so everybody moved up. And so I got run over a little bit, but that was fine. I didn't miss anything because, like, my group still hadn't started. The other thing is, like, the chip time, it doesn't start until you cross, like, the start line. And some people were just adding distance and wasting energy running towards the start line. I mean, maybe that helps if you're trying to stay loose or, like, get the nerves out, but I don't know, that's just something you might want to think about too. So by the time my corral actually started, I was already, like, dripping wet. So I was wringing out my hair and it was just going everywhere. And I tried to, like, just use my hand to, like, wipe off my arms, my face to, like, it was so wet. I mean, it was fine, like, I had all the adrenaline starting, so I was good to go by the time we started. And when we started, I guess since I was in the group that didn't really submit times, I was behind people who were, like, walking and running and then walking and running, and they kind of started off like that. But by the time I got around them, I had my space, I got my groove. I mean, there were puddles and, like, potholes on the ground, so, like, you had to weave in and out of them, but I was feeling good overall. Like, the rock and roll marathon, that's the one that I did. It had, like, bands every, like, mile or so it was really cool. Like, it was pretty loud. Like, the music was going. It was cool to see them, and, I mean, even with all the rain, the crowd was still pretty hyped up, and I think, like, the first, like, 6-ish miles, they flew by really fast. Like, I was on pace, I was happy, I was feeling good. The rain pretty much stopped at mile 7, but I mean, I was still, like, dripping wet, and I don't know if you can, like, relate to this. You probably can, but, like, my hair is straight, so when it gets wet like that, and it takes forever to dry, and then it dries all frizzy, but somehow that was good. Like, somehow my hair got, like, so like, tangled up that my hair tie, it was not going anywhere, so somehow that worked out good. But it took like a couple of miles to dry off. Like, I don't think I was dry until mile, like, 12. It was weird. But the half and the full marathon, we started at the same time and split around mile 8, and the entire mile after, I was like, this is going to start playing with me mentally. Mile 8 was, like, just uphill the whole time. It wasn't steep, but, like, a mile uphill is, like, that's pretty long. And with the split, there weren't as many runners around, and by the time you're there, the adrenaline starts sort of fading away. And I think I trained pretty well for, like, the mental block. That's why it's so important just to show up and run during training, even when you don't want to. Even if, like, you cut your run shorter or slower, just showing up for that run, that helps a lot for, like, the mental aspect of running. So as I started taking my gels around mile 6 or 7, the way I practice with gels, I kept the same. I just take, like, a little bite every mile or so. If I, like, take a whole gel all at once, it makes me feel like, I don't know, I just feel off and heavy when I'm running. So I just took a little bite, had some water. If your gels hurt your stomach, make sure you're drinking it. and drinking water with it too, because that is one thing that helped me a lot. Like, if I just have a bite of gel, I don't feel that great, but if I, like, drink a bunch of water and kind of water it down, it just makes it a bit easier to digest. So I was chilling, doing my thing until about mile 13, and I don't know what, but I just started crying. Like, I was about 3 hours in, and it hit. Like, I was just like, whoa, this is halfway, and I'm okay, but am I gonna be okay for another 13 miles? And just all sorts of emotions hit. I was like, this is the hardest race I've done. Of course it's gonna be hard. You wanted to do this because it's hard. But at the same time, I was like, all of these runners are better than I am, and I'm the least qualified person to be here, and you'll be lucky to finish. And let me just say, if you sign up for a marathon, you deserve to be there as much as anyone else running that race. And as soon as those thoughts started going through my head, I got them right out, because I was like, that's just silly. Like, wipe my tears. I was like, no, you can do this, and you're going to do this, and it's going to be fine. So I took like a mini walk break just to like get myself back together, and I kind of weirded me out, but I guess I didn't really mind it, because like I kind of needed it at the point. But there was a guy who was running behind me, and he was like, oh, you can't stop walking, I really liked your pace, I was trying to like keep up with you. And so he got me running again, and I can't remember his name, but he was really nice, and he was like, just slow down, just keep running, and just be patient, because I mean, you can't speed up how long a marathon takes. Like, it's gonna take like a couple hours. So we talked for a little bit, and I started running and walking around mile 16 again, and really started struggling. Like, people were passing me, and it was still like another 10 miles, and all I could do was keep moving forward as fast as I could, whether it was running or walking. Just at one point, I could only run if it was downhill, and I was like, this is fine, be nice to yourself. I was telling myself, it's your first marathon, all you have to do is finish. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I did tell myself, like, I wanted to run a marathon, and I was like, if I quit right now, I would have to start from the very beginning and do all of this over again. And that was enough to keep going, because I did not want to have to restart and do it all over again. I was like, this is the one time I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to run, and then I never have to do it again, because I can say I was a marathoner. And I think so many people feel that way. They're like, I'm never doing this again while it's happening, but then they sign up for another marathon like right after they finish. And I mean, that's kind of what I did too. But most people, you don't run a marathon because it's gonna feel good. Like, you have your reason to run. So by like probably from mile 20 to 24, I was just dead. I was exhausted, I was dehydrated, and I could barely do like a 15-minute mile, which was, I mean, like, that's like a jog or speed walk. I don't know, but it was fine. Like, I was like, just keep moving. I was still on track to finish. I wasn't really drinking that much water, and I definitely should have, but I was crying, that I feel like that didn't help. And I also felt like I was like maybe gonna throw up, which was like, it was kind of gross, but like I just really did not want to throw up. I like hate that. The route itself did mess with me. So by the time I was like mile 20 or 24, I think it might have been mile like 23 or 24. I can't remember. Oh my gosh. But my brother, like, since he was in one of the first corrals, he was already done and like just kind of sitting by the finish line. And I saw him, and that picked me up like quite a bit. But that last, like, it's probably like a mile and a half or 2 miles, we ran like right next to the finish line, and I was like, I can see it. I can see like the whole end like party they had, but I still had another little loop to do. And I was like, I was barely moving forward. And I felt and I looked exhausted. But I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing it. I'm proud of myself. Like, that was my whole running mantra. Like, it's been my mantra for, like, a long time. Like, just something you say over and over in your head to, like, keep going is, for me at least, it's make yourself proud. And I was running for me just to prove that I was capable of doing hard things. And the last half mile of the last mile, if that makes sense, it was all, like, pretty steep uphill, and it hurt. But I got to the top, and I ran as hard as I could to that finish line. It was, like, a half a mile, and it wasn't pretty. It was definitely not fast. I probably looked like I was walking, but I swear I was running as hard as I could. And those pictures, they were not good. But I ran across that finish line, and I just cried. I was exhausted, but, like, so incredibly happy. And I really don't think I don't think you can describe that feeling until you feel it. And I got my medal, I got my granola bar, Gatorade, and I sat on, like, the curb for, like, a minute just holding back tears. And since my brother already finished, he had to walk from, like, the finish line area to over where I was. And they had, like, a big 26.2 sign that we took some pictures there, and those pictures are on my Instagram if you want to see them. But we walked back to the car, and I don't know if it was, like, adrenaline or, like, what. I was, like, too happy to be in pain walking. Like, I thought, like, walking to my car after the marathon was going to be, like, the worst part because, like, back, like, 2 years ago when I did a half marathon, I could, like, barely walk back to the car. It hurt so bad, but, like, for some reason, like, I don't know. I think I was just too excited that I did it to, like, be in pain. I was, like, too happy. I don't know. So we got back to the car, and we drove to In-N-Out, and I had, like, a double fries and a shake just to, like, get calories back in me, because, like, the only thing I ate for breakfast was, like, a granola bar, so I was pretty hungry. And I think I had some snacks after the race, like a granola bar and some fruit, but I needed a meal. My brother ate, like, a 4x4, which, like, I've never seen a burger that big. I was like, I don't know how he ate that whole thing. Like, I was hungry, but, like, I was not that hungry. But I think the best part was we went back to my apartment, and we went down to the hot tub, and I do think that was a big factor of not being sore the next day, was just sitting in the hot tub, letting my muscles kind of recover. And then we went back up, we had some nachos, we had some hot dogs, and we watched the Ravens game. And I crashed so hard on my couch. I do not remember, like, anything from that game. I just, like, wiped out. I had a blanket, laid on my couch, and just fell asleep. I, like, woke up at, like, I don't even know. I probably fell asleep at, like, 7, woke up at 9, and, like, I barely had enough energy to make it to my bed to sleep, but I slept so good. So my marathon experience, like, I'll never forget my first marathon. And I guess it is true that, like, something has to go wrong on race day, because Arizona, like, for a place that has 360 days of sun, it always pours anytime I have a race. Like, I ran, like, 2 races. Well, I had a couple of races a couple months ago. One rained, and the other one, like, it rained so much that, like, the course was flooded, so they just canceled it. So, like, I feel like anytime I have to be outside, it just rains, which is, like, so crazy because it's always sunny here. But it was such a good time, and it was really nice that my brother came out to run it too. Just kind of, I don't know, seeing him towards the end of the race definitely helped, and, like, it was nice to have company for a while, just because I do live here on my own, so having, like, family here every now and then, it's nice to see them. And we're both running the ultramarathon in 2 weeks, and I really don't know how that's gonna go. Like, I ran the marathon and I had a 20-mile trail run a couple weeks ago, so I definitely got my long runs in, but it's just, I feel like it's mentally, like, more challenging to do an ultra marathon, just with, like, it's so much elevation. And the ultra marathon, they were like, yeah, like, there's some rock scrambles that, like, you're gonna have to climb, so I don't know how I'm gonna feel like when I'm, like, dead from running and have to, like, climb up some rocks. Like, it's gonna be a lot of fun, but it is gonna take, like, a long time to do. And it scares me, but I think that's good, because even if I don't finish, like, I know, like, obviously I'm going to be doing my best, so I'll be proud of myself no matter what. Like, just signing up and doing something that scares me, that's enough to make me proud. Like, I'm going to give it my all, see how I do, and I'm going to try as hard as I can to get to that finish. I don't care how long it takes. I just want to finish and be like, oh, I did an ultra marathon. But I did run that 20-mile trail run. It was a race at the beginning of February, so that was, I feel like that was even harder than the marathon just because of the elevation. And so, yeah, I'll fill you all in the next episode, but it is weird. Like, trail runs, it was a lot smaller. I think it was like a 35K, so it was a little more than 20 miles, but there were only like 50 people running this race, but they had like a 50-mile, a 50K. Like, they had other races going on, so there were people, but compared to the rock and roll marathon, it was a lot less people. So it was kind of weird, like, running by yourself for like long stretches of time and like making sure you're not getting like lost in like the wilderness. But yeah, I'll go over all of that in the next episode. But hope you all enjoyed this episode. I'm sorry it took so long to get it out, but I'll see you all next time.